Hello, Wizards of the Desert community. My name is Dan, and I don't know why I'm doing. As promised, if you follow us on Facebook, I am going to be presenting you today with a budget deck tech. I'm talking extremely budget. We're talking you walk in with a $50 bill, you can build this deck. It is highly competitive for FNMs only. Don't expect to ever see this at a GP. But without further ado, let's get on with the deck. Each creature we run in this deck is a 4-of. We'll begin with Elvish Mystic. This card is a great early game blocker as well as a mana dork that'll help you play more creatures later on as well as bigger creatures. You'll see what I mean. Then our other 1-drop is Experiment 1. The evolve trigger on this 1/1 for 1 is absolutely going to make this game just absolutely gross. Being able to have a 1/1 that gets bigger every time a creature with more power or toughness enters the battlefield is, first off, it's ridiculous. Why did Wizards make this mechanic? And second off, thank you, Wizards. This mechanic is awesome for this deck. Being able to remove 2 1/1 counters to regenerate it is also a very well situated for what this deck can do. Moving up the curve, we have Colonian Tusker. It is a 3/3 for 2 green. That is an absolute the card is gross. The card is absolutely gross. It triggers our evolve, and it's the only thing in this deck that doesn't get 1/1 counters. Why would you want to run this? Well, it's just a good card. It is a good card that is solid in the 2-drop spot. Then we have our playset of Scavenging Ooze. This 2/2 for 2 exiles cards from any graveyard, so you can target yourself or your opponent. You ideally want to be able to hit creatures, but if you can't hit creatures, hitting any card from your opponent's graveyard works. Next up is Strangleroot Geist. This 2/1 with haste for 2 green and Undying triggers. Oh, this card is going to be detrimental in your winning. If you can play this on turn 2 with an Experiment 1 out, you've pretty much got the game. Swinging in for 4 damage on turn 2 with 2 creatures on board already is good. But the fact that when this dies, it can come back from the graveyard. And finally, we have Avatar of the Resolute as our last 4-of 2-drops. For 2 green, it is a 3/2 with Trample and Reach. And it also gets a +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So if you have 3 creatures with 1/1 counters on them, as you play Avatar, it gets 3 1/1 counters, making it a 6/5 with Trample and Reach. That being said, you want to try to protect this creature as much as possible. There is not too much you can do with this deck to protect it, but being able to protect this creature and keep it around is going to win you the game. Moving up the curve, we have only a playset of 3-drops in Reverent Hunter. This card enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it equal to your devotion to green. If you don't know what devotion to green is, you probably didn't play during the Theros block. So each of the little green mana symbols and the creatures that you have on the battlefield is your devotion to green. So if you have 1 Elvish Mystic, 1 Avatar of the Resolute, 1 Colonian Tusker, and then play a Reverent Hunter, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 devotion to green. It gets 6 +1/+1 counters on it, and that's why it only starts as a 1/1. It doesn't have anything special about it other than it gets big. And for our last creature, we run a playset of Mistcutter Hydra. Protection from blue and can't be countered. That is what you're looking at. Control is on the rise, and it is getting scary. It enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it, which isn't that great alone, but the fact that it has haste can mean, like, by turn 3, you potentially have a 3/3 with haste swing in for game. Potentially. Will that always happen? No. But when it does, oh man, does it feel good. Next, we move on to our condoms. Why do I call them condoms? Because they are protection. When you're going into combat and you need protection, use one of these. We begin with a 4 of Blossoming Defense. This card is what you need for any form of spot removal your opponent is trying to cast. Giving it your creature +2/+2 is an added bonus, but you need that hexproof. It'll make sure that your creatures are around a lot longer than they probably should be, in all honesty. If Blossoming Defense is not your cup of tea, we also run a 4 of Vines of Vastwood. Gives your creature, again, hexproof, but this time, for an additional green mana, you can give your creature +4/+4/+4/+4. Kicked? Yes. Will you be playing it kicked most of the time? No. You need the hexproof more than you need to kick the card. The +4/+4 is an added bonus, just like the added bonus from Blossoming Defense is +2/+2, but this time it's a card that you just need the hexproof. Finishing off the deck is a playset of Rancor. Enchant a creature to give it +2/+0 and trample. That is what's going to push this deck over the limit. When you have those big creatures on board, the big beefy 1/1 counter creatures or the big hasty creatures or whatever you have on board, giving it that creature +2/+0 and trample is going to make this deck function so much better. Not to mention, when a creature dies that Rancor enchants, Rancor goes to the graveyard, right? Even if the creature gets exiled, Rancor will still go to the graveyard. When Rancor is put into the graveyard from play, not from the hand, but from play, it goes back to your hand, meaning you can enchant another creature. Add 16 lands for the mana base, and you have mono green Stompy, aka Das GUD.